Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome to 2024. I hope it's been good to you so far. My name is Clay, and this is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast. In this episode, I sit down for a conversation with EPP guide Jan Shegda. This episode is going to be quite lengthy. It already is quite lengthy, I think. Actually, I don't know the words to say there to preface it, but I'll just say that I'm not going to say a lot here because we cover a whole lot in the next couple of hours. I really enjoyed sitting down with Jan. She's one of my favorite people to talk to. I find her thoughts to be interesting, and she asks all the fun questions as well. So it really makes for a fun conversation. I hope you like it. I certainly did. And we're glad you're here. Thanks for listening. This is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast.
I'm Jan Shegda. I'm a lover and a fighter, and I'm here doing a podcast for EPP.
And we are in San Diego right now. Neither of us live here. You live closer to here than I do. Mm-hmm. And we're here for a program that we're doing this last week, and right now it's the weekend between two different 2-day chunks. That probably doesn't make sense. Doesn't matter. We're at the Airbnb, chilling at the kitchen table, and just chatting. And I asked you, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? Because obviously I knew that we would both be here for the course. And I asked, hey, would you be down to sit down and do a podcast? And you said, yeah, of course. And first of all, do you regret saying yes?
I'm not going to lie. I've had some moments of like, what the hell am I going to talk about? And we'll find out.
Do you have any topics or anything that jump out that you want to start with?
I don't, but let me just take a minute and think a little deeper. I don't.
I'm almost glad because I get to say that this is a process I've seen you do. And so I can talk about what you just did where you say, let me pause and just think and consider. And I've seen you do this in a lot of different venues. I've seen you do it on Zoom in a circle meeting or whatever. I've seen you do it in classes. I've seen you do it in class, in prison, like as recently as Thursday. And I saw you do it just now. And I appreciate the pause and whatever that process is that happens where you go, just hang on a second. And then the hang happens. And then oftentimes something comes up, and then in this case, nothing. So I get to put that in. Where did you learn that? How long has that been a part of your life? And what exactly happens when you take that pause and a moment of silence to consider options and then choose, if any show up?
I think I noticed it first from Vibha Goslin, one of our faculty members, who I noticed in meetings, Vibha will say something which almost always is very deep, impactful, and gets just to the heart of whatever we're talking about. And I will think that she's finished. And so I'll jump into, if I'm facilitating, to say something or to reflect back. And as soon as I open my mouth, she'll say something else that was an additional like crystallization of what she was sharing before. But she just did this 3 or 5 second pause. And I thought about that and I was like, oh, it's like part of her process to do that. And maybe I could do it too. And so I started trying it out and realized, hey, this actually is really helpful for me because often whatever I'm going to say is automatic or the first thing coming to mind, or let's say it's coming from my brain and not my heart, or vice versa. Actually, I wouldn't want to say that. I don't want to shit on the brain. It's not the brain's fault. Just because it's the first thing doesn't mean it's the brain. but more to say like the autonomic response, automatic response. And I want a little more space in my responses than just going with what the automatic response is. So I've been integrating that pause.
When she does that, does she announce it, or is it just a thing that you have to know by knowing her?
No, it surprised the hell out of me a few times. And I felt really bad because I literally would just, to me, it felt like I was jumping down her throat.
Yeah.
Immediately when I had a second to jump in. But yeah, so I didn't see it coming until getting to know Vipa more.
And that's, over the course of life, I would imagine that experience was a fairly recent one. How long ago? I don't know how long you've known Vipa, but I would assume that may have been in the last couple of years or so.
Yeah, I bet it was a year ago.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen it. I've seen probably since you started doing that. That's probably how often I've seen that, which is kind of neat. I'm curious. I wish she was here to ask this because I would want to know how. Maybe I'll talk to her. I wonder how that is for her, and does she and what was her response? Did she just sit back and wait for another spot, or did she just talk over whoever interrupted her, or like what was her? I want to know her part of the story, I guess is what I'm asking.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. You should definitely do that. But I can say from my point of view, she just said what she had to say, regardless of whether someone was full on into their next sentence and I really actually appreciate that in particular from a 9, knowing that that's not natural, or it's my assumption that it's not natural.
What I know about type 9, and actually one of my favorite examples of a type 9 story, with her being on the train and someone stepping on her toe and just wait. She didn't respond. She just wait. So what I know about her from that, it sounds interesting to know that she would just kind of keep talking.
Mm-hmm. I get the sense that in those moments, she is serving a higher purpose and knows that there's something that needs to flow through her. And so nothing else matters. That's the impression I get. And I respect that.
I love seeing you do that. I may try to implement that in my own life because I feel like it really adds a lot to the experience of whatever you're doing, whether it's a meeting or a course or a class of some kind or whatever. It feels like it feels like it's worth adding. It feels like things come after that wouldn't have come otherwise. So
absolutely, every time. And even if like just before, if it's the same answer, it comes from a different place. And what I've realized is it really gives me that moment of space to tap into other parts of myself that maybe wouldn't ordinarily be heard in response to that question or whatever I'm talking about. And it gives me a moment to tap into my spiritual guidance. And so ultimately helps me to feel more whole and grounded and powerful with whatever I'm sharing.
Do people jump in there when you do it? Do people interrupt, or if you say, let me think about that for a minute, and then they try to finish your sentence? Or do people mostly respect that?
I don't remember that happening. It may have once or twice, but it kind of doesn't even faze me if it does. I think I'm pretty consistent with announcing what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to just take a minute and check in here. And I say that, I think, because it means like, leave me the fuck alone and give me 5 seconds. And people usually get the idea.
It's pretty clear. Like there's not a whole lot of, at least for me, should I say something now? Like I like the announcement. It's cool. And also it has a bit of a, what's the word? I don't have a fancy enough vocabulary. I need to work on that. Like I'm on the edge of my seat a little bit, like, ooh, what's this? What's happening? Can we talk about why we're in San Diego?
Sure. Is that, so I don't know your podcast cues. Is that, Jan, talk about why we're in San Diego?
No, I just literally want to know if it's okay to talk about why we're here. And if you said no, I would go, well, Kent, you want to talk about your Zoom, your favorite color? We can talk about literally anything. No, there's no cues. There's no sneaky like lead-ins or anything like that. I'm literally asking permission to talk about what we're doing in San Diego.
Yeah, and I don't think you can just go for it. No
Cool.
permission needed.
So we're here for another course at a local prison that sometimes I name, sometimes I don't. The more vague I am about which prison it is, the more I can say about the class, I think. And I don't know. It's okay if we say where we are, but there's not a whole lot of prisons around San Diego. We're here for a compressed schedule, 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. And I don't know if you said this or included this as part of your introduction, but what do you do for EPP? Or what do you do that is related to why we're here, I should say?
I am guiding in the course with Laura Hooper, our program manager, who's also a guide. And it's the two of us, and Clay is here as the ambassador. And we also had Troy Phillips here for the first 2 days, who is an ambassador also, but it was his first time actually in a course doing the ambassador things as part of a course. So it's been really cool to have a bigger team than usual. And it's been just awesome to guide specifically with Laura, but with everybody. I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
And it's not your first time at this prison either, right?
My first time at this prison was in 2019 for my apprenticeship after guide training program 4.
That was a long time ago.
It was.
We're on 9 now, maybe? Something like that?
Next year will be 9. Yeah, and that was the world before COVID, which seems like a totally different universe.
Yeah. So you did your apprenticeship here, and then you did another class last year, was it? That was a much different experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. How was it different for you?
I think, well, first of all, I'm used to doing now, after having been here half a dozen times this year, we do a lot of our classes in, I don't even know if I can say the building, but basically it's a building designed for classes. And when we were here for the 3 cohort week, 2 of our classes were in the rooms. Like the physical makeup of the rooms was not ideal. They had these tables in the middle of the room that were anchored, these metal tables that are anchored down. So it was really hard to have like a circle around the room, and literally just the physical makeup of the room was less fun to me. And also, we had 3 cohorts going at once. So the bio response process was insane. We had, maybe not insane, but it was bonkers. And it was everything that we do times 3. And it felt it felt like a lot was getting done. And still great things happened. So it was cool. And, at that Airbnb, there was like 8 or 9 of us or whatever. We had like the front house and the back house and apartments, and there was a lot of people staying there, which was pretty cool. But also that was a one of a kind experience, I guess. And I think this year, the way that we've started doing it, that differs from that is it's been a smaller size class in a smaller room with fewer people, and also instead of doing like that was 4 days in a week. It was 4 straight, 8-hour days or 6-hour days or whatever it was. And then we started on Monday, graduated on Friday. And actually one of those classes started on Monday, graduated Thursday, because someone wasn't able to stay the whole week. So the way we do it now is a lot more spread out. And even the course that we're doing right now, it was supposed to be Thursday, Friday of a week, and then skip a week, and then Thursday, Friday of another week. So even though technically by the hour they're the same in terms of like length or size or whatever you want to say, but having that space is a big deal. Or even like this weekend, we have Thursday, Friday, and then we have a whole weekend off, and then we go back for Monday, Tuesday. So there's something about the space in between that I think really adds to being able to soak in everything that's happened. And not just for the participants, but like us being able to just chill out. Like it's neat to just hang out and do puzzles, or order Chipotle or whatever. Just hang out and sit and chat. I think that adds to the ability for the class to be a good class. So I like it a lot more that way. And I will say yes to the 4 straight days every time. If the options are that or nothing, I'll pick that over nothing every time. And then I also enjoy this much more, spreading it out a little bit, have a little bit of space.
It is nice to have a little chill.
Yeah. So we're here. You mentioned Laura. Troy was here for the first couple of days, and then the next 2 days were kind of makeup. So some of the plans got altered a little bit. What is it about guiding? I don't know. It's a simple question, but maybe not a simple answer. Why do you do it? What are you in it for? Is that an okay question, or is that too sharp and to the point?
No, I'm just wanting to give the most accurate answer there is, which is complicated because as a social instinct person, there are many, many reasons. One is, of course, I want the participants to have the experience of going through a course, and the more guides we have, the more participants we can have. For myself, I want to be a guide because it changes me. It's not just the participants that are growing. I'm growing all the time. In the first day of our course this week, I was facilitating a piece in our module 2 about trauma and had some of my own trauma come up and had to work with it. Worked with it real time in front of the class in a way that was very uncomfortable, but I heard later from some of the people that was really powerful and really drove it home in a different way than it would have. And of course, I would never choose to, relive a traumatic experience in front of a bunch of strangers and kind of model how hard it is to work through that or find a sense of peace or regulation in your body. But guiding gives me the opportunity to do things like that. And then there's other things like EPP is an organization I really believe in, and so I want to support the mission. And then part of my work with EPP is working with others who are along the guide path. And so to be able to do that effectively, it helps to know about it from all angles. So there's more reasons than that, but that's the first few.
So the experience that you're talking about, the what was said after what was, I might be paraphrasing. I wish I could quote it verbatim because it was really good. But it was a great example of why we say guide instead of teacher, because you were not directly instructing people on how to deal with the shit as it comes along. And that's my word, by the way. So nobody else called it that, but that's my paraphrase. And what the feedback was basically, you showed me that that's possible, that you showed me that a thing can happen. And I think that is so much bigger than instructing people with facts. And as a head type, someone who particularly enjoys facts and information and data and all this stuff, I think there's really something to being a participant in class and watching you, the guide, clearly experience something and work through it. And I find it really amazing is the only word that's coming to mind. Is quite impressive to be able to witness all that. And it's not fun. It's not what you ask for, as you said. It's not, gee, I'm glad that happened. So I don't want to paint it that way because it's clearly not any of that. At least that's not how I experienced it. I won't speak for you. I feel okay that I'm pretty close to what's true there as I get 2 thumbs up. But it is so valuable. And I remember being the student in class, and we say participant now, and that was long enough ago. I'll say student because I feel like I was a student in class and watching that experience of like, this is a thing that can happen. I can add this to my life, and how the participants in class translate that and implement it in their own life. Who knows? We'll find out as time goes on. But I find that quite commendable, that in a place where you could literally say pass, or I don't want to go there, or we don't have time for that, or any other thing that might still be true, you chose to go with it. And it's a big deal.
Thank you. It is a big deal. It felt like a big deal at the time and even now. And it brought up a lot of type related things I had to deal with, of course, like being a heart type and the embarrassment of how I'm presenting myself. And so there are a lot of triggers after the fact also, just even separate from the trauma to sort through. But it's one of the things I love about guiding and about EPP, that it's not, as you said, it's not about teaching the content or just understanding the concepts. It's about embodying them, living them, figuring out what does this actually mean, though.
How you mentioned type. I don't remember if you said earlier. I feel like you might not have, but I could have missed it too. Are you okay saying your type?
Type 4.
How did you, how long have you been knowing about this here Enneagram thing? And then also, how did you find your type?
I've known about the Enneagram for about 20 years. I found my type because I was in a class with someone not related to, well, just a psychology class, basically. And I was really into the Myers-Briggs at the time, and met somebody in class and they were like, "Oh, I'm into this Enneagram thing. It's so great." And I said, "Well, it can't be as good as the MBTI because the MBTI is amazing."
Yeah.
Says, I don't know, 23-year-old Jan. And so we decided we were going to get together for a coffee and swap systems and decide who was better. And yeah, I lost that bet almost immediately. I read just a short description of the types, and then I took the wisdom of the Enneagram home that evening, read the chapter on type 4, and said, wow, this is me, and I guess I can't blame my entire life on my parents.
I did not know. This is news to me about Myers-Briggs. And I have, I don't know a lot about Myers-Briggs. I know just enough. Can I ask a few questions about it?
Sure.
Because I know of at least one person who's familiar, who listens to the podcast. And I don't know, maybe just some comparisons between the two. I know that is much more of a corporate tool, or I believe it is. Is that true? It's much more frequently used in the corporate world.
Yes, and especially, maybe 20, 30 years ago is when it was big.
Is it not so big these days?
It's still used, but these things go in cycles. Things get popular and fall out of favor, and everyone's said the Myers-Briggs by now that's in a corporate environment at least once. What
was that comparison like for you? And also, I don't know, maybe, I guess I'm just curious how they look side by side, where I have I'll just say it, I have a very negative bias for one of them between Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram. And I really love and consider the other one to be a life-changing tool. I won't give it away and say which is which.
What could it be?
I will say it's not the Myers-Briggs Prison Project. There's a small hint.
That would be such a ridiculous thing. Oh my goodness.
We could do that. We could have like a funnyordie.com sketch around that and just write the whole thing. And
StrengthsFinder Prison Project.
Yeah. That's we're there. We're halfway there with the name. But how do they compare the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram? What do they look like side by side?
Mm-hmm. So the Enneagram, as you mentioned, is deeper, more life-changing. It's more about like, why are you here on the planet? What's important to you to see in the world? And what is the way that you have most hurt yourself and held yourself back in life? So it's pretty deep. Myers-Briggs talks about your basic psychological functioning, how you show up in a day-to-day environment. If anyone's familiar with our curriculum here that's listening, we talk about the origins of personality, and one of the origins of personality is what we call temperament, like how you just arrive on the planet, your preferences for being introverted or extroverted, how you process information, how you make decisions. A lot of those things would be considered to be inborn. And so we have both energies, but we just kind of lean one way or the other. And so if you find which way you lean on each of 4 preference pairs, then that gives you a 4-letter type such as ISTJ or ENFP. And it can actually, so another place of comparison. Oh boy, I could talk about this for a long time because.
Can I tell you what I've been told my letters are, and then you make sense of that by comparison with my Enneagram type?
Okay, sure.
Is that a thing that do people do that?
Actually. Mm-hmm.
So I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that I was told that I am an INTJ. Does that jive with what you know about me?
It would be one of the types I would consider for you, along with ISTP and INTP.
Oh,
and ISFP.
I'm down to hear about all of them. I've never heard of any of the P's. I've only heard. So wherever you want to take this, how do those compare with what I do know about type 5?
So most of those actually would correlate with type 5, meaning that a higher percentage of people that have those Myers-Briggs types would also have identify as type 5 than some of the others. Of course, correlation is not causation, and it's not like a one-to-one relationship, so you can be any Myers-Briggs type and any Enneagram type. If you're interested in this, all you have to do is Google Enneagram and MBTI, and you can see charts that give you the likelihood of being one or the other. For example, just off the top of my head, type 5, the Myers-Briggs types that are most highly correlated with being type 5 would be INTP, ISTP, and INTJ, I think are the top 3. At least they were the last time I looked at that research, but it's been a minute.
So INT in all 3 of those.
ISTP is one of them.
Yeah. There's the I is in all 4 of those. Or you mentioned 3, I think, just now?
I mentioned 3, yes.
I and T are in 2 of them. I, T, and P are in 2 or 1 or 1. And then the second letter changed a couple. I'm trying to remember without knowing jack shit about Myers-Briggs. So what are the differences between those here on the Enneagram Prison Project where we're talking about Myers-Briggs? It's worth knowing because I wish I could have this. Okay, I'll just tell you. This is how the conversation goes when I have it with someone. Why do you use Enneagram? Myers-Briggs, blah, blah, blah. And what I say is, well, because it's bullshit. And this is what the Enneagram, blah, blah, blah. So I want to find a nicer way to say, well, actually, I know that this says that, but, and I can't have that conversation because I have such a negative, okay, I guess I gave it away. I'm not a big fan of Myers-Briggs. But I do think that it has to make sense on some level. It has to have some logical connection. Like those have to mean something.
They have different purposes. For example, there's been pretty extensive career coaching data pulled and correlated with Myers-Briggs type. So if you understand what your Myers-Briggs type is, you can look at compiled research that tells you which careers, job families, and job titles would suit you best, not just from some researchers' point of view, but from the mouths of other people with the same type as you. Gotcha. That's useful. Yeah. That's useful if you're looking at like, what job should I do? If you're trying to figure out your meaning and purpose in life and how to heal from your deepest childhood wounds, Myers-Briggs isn't going to do anything for you.
So if I've narrowed down my career choices to a software engineer or fighter pilot, INTJ would tell me software engineer. Maybe?
Yeah.
Question mark?
I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to think of. So I've had my own business for 14 years and I was a career coach using the Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, and StrengthsFinder.
Yeah.
I still do it on the side just a little bit, but not that much anymore. And so
I hope none of your clients listen to me talk about the.
It's not a problem.
Okay.
It's not a problem. But I'm trying to remember because I've looked at those charts so many bajillion times. I definitely think that the engineer would be higher on the list, but I think transportation, moving essentially is actually still one of the like what they call best fit categories.
Okay,
but maybe just not as high up on the list.
What do this is the last question I swear about Myers-Briggs. What do the actual letters mean? I'll just stick with INTJ. I believe I is introverted, right?
I is introverted, yeah. So like you mentioned, that was in all of the 3 that I mentioned for type 5. So that just means that what we would expect most of the time is that most 5s are introverted. but it's not always true. Like for example,
I don't feel particularly introverted, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I am, and I don't realize it. But
well, and your social instinct, right? Because that can also impact things.
yeah.
I was just thinking whether I should out a famous Enneagram teacher and his Myers-Briggs type, but I'm not going to do it.
We can always bleep the name later if you want.
Okay. Well, I know a type 5 who is an INFP, which sometimes surprises people that you would be a feeling preference, like a very emotional person and be a type 5, but it definitely happens. But the other ones that correlate most strongly would be thinking preference instead of feeling. So it's F or T, thinking preference. So basically, introverted and thinking preference are the ones that you would almost certainly expect to find with type 5. And then the other two preference pairs are intuitive versus sensing. About 75% of the U.S. population, it does vary by country, but about 75% of the U.S. population would fall into sensing, which is what can I see, touch, taste, hear, smell.
Yeah.
And intuitive is, what's beyond that, what's beyond the veil. And the last one, judging versus perceiving. How organized do I like my inner and outer worlds to be? People prefer judging, like things settled, ordered, and decided. People that prefer perceiving want more flexibility and possibility because they're inherently more creative. I probably would say that a little bit differently, but hopefully you get what I mean. But they are. They're more creative because they're looking for possibilities and how to combine and alchemize and change things. And judgers are looking to order things.
I did not know any of that, and definitely didn't know all of it. That's so much. It sounds so. It actually sounds quite hopeful if you have nothing. If you have no tools or anything to consider, that actually sounds quite useful. Maybe even. I don't know. Maybe not. I said I wasn't going to ask any more questions about it, so I'm going to follow that and skip along. By the way, can you bend the mic down like just a little bit to where it should just there
like
we go.
That?
Yep, perfect.
I mean, to go along with what you're saying, I used to say that the MBTI was the Enneagram, the gateway drug to the Enneagram.
So, I can say now that when I learned the Enneagram, I was in prison. And Susan, we called her the Enneagram lady back then. There was no such thing as EPP. After a couple of years, they canceled the Enneagram and brought in Myers-Briggs. And it was an entrepreneurship program. It made sense why they would do that back then. This was 2012, early 2012, I believe. And I like that, thinking of it as the gateway drug to the Enneagram, because I'm a fan of anybody finding their way to the Enneagram, no matter how that might be. So I want to go back a little bit before you mentioned 23-year-old Jan earlier. So like even a few years before that, I know a little bit, but also I'm hearing a lot that you had quite an interest in, I don't know if it's like human behavior or what category this all might fall under, but you clearly have an interest in the human experience. And so I'm curious where that came from and where I want to know all about that.
I think I've always been interested in why some people really thrive in life and why others have failure to thrive. And I wasn't satisfied with the answers that are just about like, the family you come from or how much money you have or the opportunities you were given. And I wanted to understand more how people grow. And so that led me to study psychology and sociology. I went down that pathway for a bit and actually quite a few different avenues before I ended up, I won't skip that far ahead. Let's see. What else should I say about that? I think like a lot of people helpers or people that want to study psychology or similar fields, I also was drawn to it because I wanted to understand myself. I didn't, probably like many fours, maybe every four on the planet, I don't know. I didn't see examples of people that I wanted to become when I was growing up. And so it's like I didn't see someone to look up to who could help me know how to be me. But I was very clear that a lot of the guidance I was receiving was taking me the wrong direction. So I was looking everywhere I could to figure out how do I do justice to this part of me that wants to blossom and bloom and grow, that no one else can even tell me what it is, much less how to let it do that?
What is it, a frustrating thing to want, or I guess as you said, you don't see anybody, and how I hear that is you didn't see anyone that you wanted to model your own life after, or I want to grow up to be ... Is it I can see that for me being a very like cerebral, like observation, or even just a full experience in my mind of being like, well, I don't see it. And then that's kind of where I end with it. And I wonder, I suspect that's not how it was for you. I guess I'm wondering, what do you make of that at a young age of going, I don't have this thing that people have. A lot of people have role models. I don't have one. And I know I'm filling in the blanks, things you didn't necessarily say, but that's how I hear that is, so many kids talk about when I grow up, and that's not, that didn't happen for you. So is it a like a mechanical, I'm doing this, I'm finding this, or what's the motion? Is there an emotional part of that or aspect of that?
I would say it was deeply emotional and very tied to the heart types, the heart center of the Enneagram. There's no heart type in my family, and I think just that language is pretty foreign. So, and also just the subculture I grew up in was not very heart forward, I would say. So it's actually, a struggle even today to be able to use heart-centered words and ways of being for things that are heart-centered for me. It's like I'm so trained, or what would the word be? Acculturated? Is that a word?
Yeah, trained feels like it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Brainwashed.
Yeah, exactly. To to not show up that way. And with other heart types, other 2s, 3s, and 4s, it's so important to have a sense of self that's mirrored back to you that you can be proud of or that you think fits you. And of course, like eventually we can hopefully get to the place where we become our own mirrors, and so it's not dependent on those around us. But I was really looking for that when I was young, and all I knew was that I didn't have it and I had to find it somewhere.
Did you? Or have you?
I've never considered that question. So I guess I will now. Let's see. What's coming to mind is a line from the Sleeping at Last song 4, which is something we play in custody. And there's a line at the end of that song that says, maybe we already are all that we're trying to become. And I think that's where I found it.
You want to listen to it?
Do you want to see me cry on the podcast? Sure. Let's listen to
the good news is nobody else will see. We don't have to.
I like the song, yeah.
Sleeping at Last. I actually have a playlist on my Spotify. Just play the whole song here. It's the right one, right?
Oh, yeah.
If it's too much, just tell me and we can pause it.
I'm turning out the lights to remember how to see, till a renaissance takes place and resuscitates the color of paint and divinity. As if God hid the building blocks of every beautiful thing in this game of hide and seek. I can't help but think that ordinary swallowed the key. Bodies fashioned out of dirt and dust. For a moment we get to be glorious. Ice sculptures adorned in light, sand castles built tall in between the tides. And maybe I'm hiding behind metaphor. Maybe my heart needs to break to be sure. One day I'll wear it on my sleeve, the insignificant with the sacred unique. But I fall in love with a ghost. I lost my balance when I needed most, and this blurry photograph is proof. Oh, I'm not sure, but it feels like truth. I'm stuck swimming in shadows down here. It's been forever since I came up for air. Flashlight in hand, determined to find authenticity. Only poetry could even begin to try to describe. Bodies fashioned out of dirt and dust. For a moment we get to be glorious. Get to be glorious. Get to be glorious. What if we already are who we've been dying to become? In certain light I can plainly see a reflection of magnificence hidden in you, maybe even in me.
What's there?
At least 6 different trails I could go down.
We can borrow from type 7 and go down all of them.
Okay.
Or one.
Longest podcast ever.
Oh, I've got a 4-hour episode with Rick and Susan. So
Oh, wow.
if you're down, we can try to beat it.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I guess I just want to name the things that stood out to me this time. And I've probably heard that song 100 times, maybe even 1,000. And every time something else hits me in a really deep way. And the other cool thing about it is that Sleeping at Last, Ryan O'Neal is his name, is like the most beautiful person. Also, which I don't know, just makes it really cool. Anyway, well, I think about the line that I that I misquoted, close enough though, I guess, about, what if we are already who we're dying to become? I think about I've fallen in love with a ghost. I lost my balance when I needed it most. I remember those years. They were rough. Ooh, yeah, I'm stuck on that one. So I guess that's where to go next, maybe. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, actually, because I used to think of it as just a type 4 thing, but I think it applies to anyone who sees himself as a light bringer in the world, or someone that's wanting to help others, to be a healer, to be a counselor, to be a guide, to be a coach, a mentor, any of those things. And it's very easy to fall in love with a ghost, to fall in love with our own projection of a person instead of who they actually are, who I actually am in the space between us. And I've done that before in a very, very powerful way, actually, with someone who I think is a sociopath. But I had projected all of my qualities onto that person. And it took me years to really sort through that and see how much I needed to believe that they were who I thought they were, and couldn't see how I was being manipulated or lied to or any of that. And I think that's really easy to have happen if you, well, let me say it this way. I think every person has an experience where they meet someone really dark, and until it happens to you, there's no really protecting you from that or explaining what it's like, or it's just something you have to go through and live through. And I guess I feel grateful for my type structure, having experienced that, because I was able, I think, in a way that might have been much more painful for others, even though it was excruciating for me, but to be able to sort through the pieces of that and leave it behind.
When you say dark, can I ask for more detail? And I'll include here that the magic word is pass.
Yeah.
If you so desire.
We might want to pass on this whole section. I don't know. But I think anyone who's been in an emotionally abusive situation can resonate with how confusing and mumbled the thoughts and feelings and memories can even be looking back. Like, tell me what that person actually did to you. I don't know that I could give you a clear answer. But I do know what the result was for me, which was a heart space completely drained, a shattered sense of self, a broken heart in a way I'd never experienced before in my life, and I've got some experience with that. What else would I say? I think it'd be important to mention here that a person that's dark is, I think, generally that way because they don't know how to generate any light from within themselves. And that's part of the human condition. It's actually part of what we teach, how to learn to accept and heal yourself. And if you can't do that, if you have a lot of trauma layered on top of that, all you can do is suck in any of the light from around you. And you may not be intentionally abusive. You may, in fact, be very well-meaning. You may have a great reputation or even be seen as a really positive person in some circles.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change that you're, a black hole that's just feeding on everything around you. So when I say dark, I mean a person in that state.
Yeah.
And I really don't have as much judgment for that as it may sound. I think it could happen to anyone with the right circumstance.
I don't hear judgment, frankly. I think I can see where maybe someone can describe that in a way that's easy to hear judgment, but I don't right now. I I do. It's a much easier question, so it's okay. But I actually want to just to make sure, are we okay here? Or do we need to?
I mean, we're here. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I chose to go here. And it doesn't have to be an easy question. I can always edit it out.
I'm not aiming for easy. It just so happens that what I'm curious, I think, is at least easier. I'm wondering about the way out, or what that process was, or what your experience was and moving forward, especially with you. You said black hole there at the end. And what I know about black holes is not only are they dark and light does not escape them, but they have an intense gravity. And that's what makes them so dark in the first place, is they have so much gravity that not even light can escape. So to break away from that, I would imagine, at least if we're talking physics, requires an intense burst of energy away, or at least something along those lines. So what can that look like generally, or what did it look like for you specifically? What is the what's the magical way out from all that?
I'm so happy you brought physics into it. The magic way out. I think it's probably a similar story for everyone. Which was a place I had to bump up against my ordinariness. And that is that you only break away because you have nothing left and you don't have a choice. I really believe, like, the general point of view that you grow when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. And there was just so much pain in that situation. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. And so that's why I pulled away. And still, I mean, it took everything I had, I would say, at that time to do that.
You said 6 different paths, and you mentioned a few. You want to just scroll through any of the lyrics there and see what else jumps out at you?
Yes, I do. As if God hid the building blocks of every beautiful thing. I think when you were asking before, what I was looking for in terms of like a mentorship or an example of someone, I think that's what I was looking for, was the building blocks. Like, how does a beautiful person get created? In this game of hide and seek, ordinary has swallowed the key.
What does that mean? This word ordinary, I think, comes up frequently somehow talking about type 4. What is that?
It's what we most avoid, because as an image type, wanting to be special, wanting to be different, wanting to be unique, if that's not present, then it's like our whole sense of self is shattered or threatened. And so ordinary is kind of like a catch-all word for that.
And I think to a lot of us, myself included, frankly, who might not understand the depth of that, a line like, in this game of hide and seek, ordinary has swallowed the key. Can you translate that? Because I would imagine that means quite a lot, and I don't know that I fully see all that it means.
Yeah, well, it's funny because the next line is, maybe I'm hiding behind metaphor. So basically that's what it means. Which when I first read that line, I was like, fuck off. Who's this guy? Hiding behind metaphor. Metaphors are beautiful. And yes, they are, of course. Describing something in terms of how it's like something else, a metaphor. But it's also a way to not say what you really mean, to not embody your truth, to not be direct, to not be clear to yourself and the world around you, which is part of having like an image that's actually internalized. At least that's how I think about it.
And he's a type 9, by the way. So it's not like he's writing from as a type 4. He just does such a kick-ass job with those songs. Fun fact, he has a podcast episode dedicated to each of those songs. Highly recommend it. I'll link it in the description. I've literally never said that on this podcast, but I will, and it'll be there. Yay. 10 out of 10 would recommend. We play his song at the conclusion of every type on the inside, and it's amazing how he captures each type.
Yeah.
but you have the rest of the lyrics there. Anything?
Yes, so we're going to translate in this game of hide and seek. I can't help but think that ordinary has swallowed the key. So in the game of hide and seek, the way I understand that is trying to, all right, well, two interpretations. One, fours have a reputation for kind of running and hiding and then popping back out, and kind of like a push-pull relationship dynamic. So it could be that. It could also be like trying to find the authentic self. Who am I really? And in both of those, if ordinary has swallowed the key, it's saying that the key to getting off that merry-go-round, there's a metaphor, damn it, I can't stop.
Just go with it.
To get off that merry-go-round or to stop the madness. In order to really change and have that improve, you have to be willing to see yourself as just like everyone else and not special. Or at least, well, that's not exactly true. It's not about rejecting your idealized self either. It's about seeing how they can coexist. How can I be ordinary, extraordinary?
Gotcha.
So you integrate them.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so easy.
Yeah. I mean, snap your fingers. Yep. That's why the Myers-Briggs can be more accessible.
Are there any other lyrics there that jump out?
Let's see.
You really enjoy sarcasm, by the way. I've noticed.
I
I've
do.
kind of known already, but this week I've seen it a lot more. And for the record, I approve. I'm a big fan of the old sarcasm. And so is everyone else.
Perfect. The next one that's standing out to me is one day I'll wear it all on my sleeve, the insignificant with the sacred unique. And I really see that as goals. I don't know, for my life anyway, to wear everything on my sleeve, the things that I think are really unique and powerful and beautiful about me. And the stuff that I think is cheesy and basic and ordinary, like loving Christmas decoration. I probably shouldn't name all these things, but I have a list.
Go for it.
I have a list.
Some people need to hear it.
Okay, well, so some things I have learned in the last year that I really love that I think make me kind of basic and a reprehensible human, but I am like, fuck it, this is going to be me and it's going to be okay. I love decorating for Christmas. I decorated for Christmas this year on November 6th. It's ludicrous. Who does that? Who does that? I also really like getting my nails done in really crazy colors. They're hopelessly inefficient, and every time I go and have them done, I ask them for them to be as like long and pointy and witchy as possible. Yeah. Which also, like, who wants that?
Someone who does Christmas decorations on November 6th is who wants that.
Apparently,
for the record.
Apparently so. Yeah, apparently so. I have gotten really into, I mean, this is everyone though, let's be real.
We'll see.
Baby animal videos on Instagram. Okay, I can actually tie this to research though, because if you look at
I will not be lured in with your magical research. I'm not.
It's not magic. It's real research. But looking at farm animals like actually reduces your stress and gives you more happy feelings if you do it for a few seconds occasionally. So I do it for a few seconds occasionally all day. That's all. I'll stop the list there.
I won't. It's a short list. I won't argue about the farm animals. I don't know. Is it farm animals or little
baby animals?
Baby animals on a farm.
They can be farm animals if you want them to be farm animals, Clay.
I think generally speaking, people see baby animals and feel better because at least I'm not that dumbass baby animal or something like that. Like they're stumbling around, or whatever. I don't know.
They're being cute and lovable, and you just want to pick them up and
I'll have to
cuddle them.
I'll need to Google this research. I think babies, puppies, kittens, like all the little new things, I think are just generally like uncontaminated and fun to be with or be around. So anecdotally, I will say that I think all that. I don't know about this. I'll have to look up the research. I'm curious. I'm interested in reading the research. How about that?
Will you send it to me when you find it? So I can read it again because I haven't seen it in a long time.
I will look for it. Hopefully I can find it.
I bet you can.
I will. Yes, I will link it. I will send you the link if I can find it. How did we get there? What led to that? We were at a black hole a minute ago.
Happens.
We're an hour in, by the way. If you're wondering how that feels. Are we okay on time, or are you
Yeah, I'm good.
Go for a little bit longer. Cool. It ain't so bad after a while, is it? Or is it?
I feel fine talking to you. I don't know how I feel about anyone on the planet listening to what I'm saying right now, but I could maybe get over it.
I think that's it's actually a good time for me to just wiggle in a request to the listener to reach out to folks that are on the podcast and let them know that you appreciated this if you did. Don't just make it up if it's not true. I hear so much positive feedback from people who hear every episode. I get messages and it's very encouraging. I love it. It makes my day. Please keep doing it. And I don't think it's true for the guests. I think not everybody understands like what you just said. Like it's fine to sit and chat with Clay, but it's a little less comfortable with anybody who wants to listen can listen and can rewind and can listen again and over and over and over. I was trying to make it worse, but I guess it worked. Or maybe it did. It got the head nod. Okay. And so it's free to just reach out and say, hey, I enjoyed it, or I liked it, or thanks for sharing yourself, or whatever. So hopefully someone will hear that and reach out to you and say, that was awesome. Or is it actually not a good idea for that? Am I asking for something you don't want?
I don't know. I can't be trusted with an answer to that right now.
Well,
I'm feeling embarrassed.
That's appropriate. I think probably. I think most people would be. But that goes for any guest. Like just I usually screenshot and pass it along, and sometimes I don't. But it's nice to know that people enjoyed. When you pour out yourself to any extent, it's nice that people appreciate it. On the inside, when we do panels, we do like the type overview, then we do a type panel. We ask folks to come sit on panel. And then at the conclusion of the panel, before we play the song for each type, we do a circle. We do like a round of appreciation where we appreciate the folks on panel. I think appreciation is very important. It's just necessary. I think anytime somebody sits and answers questions, whether it's on a podcast or a panel or anywhere else, I don't know. It's just how I feel about it. So we're going back in for day 3 on Monday here in San Diego. Do you have any thoughts about, day 3, day 4 coming up and any of the modules that we're doing? I don't have a specific question, but is anything on your mind with regard to any of that?
Can we talk about Alex or not really?
Who just got out? Oh, 100%. 1,000%. I would, yes.
Okay. So what comes to mind is a couple nights ago, we were able to meet up with one of the participants from a former class at this prison who was just released less than 2 weeks ago, I want to say. Less than 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, 2 weeks and a couple days.
Yeah. And his wife. And so it was Troy and Clay. And can we say their names? We'll
just do first name. It was the previous episode was Becky.
Oh, I haven't listened to it yet.
Actually, I can say now that the reason that episode went up so late is because we didn't want to release the episode until he was released, just to make sure we didn't jeopardize anything. But he's here. He's out here. He was here at that chair 3 feet away from me.
It was a very excited face you just made.
It was, there's no way to describe how that felt.
No, but that's what I'd want to talk about. So yeah, Becky and Alex, and then Laura, Clay, Troy, and I we didn't even have that much time together, maybe an hour and a half or something. And just to catch up and hear how he's doing. And, which he said, by the way, that he's had to answer so many times that's overwhelming to talk about how overwhelming it is to be out and to be in this new world, new life, and all of it. And there was just so much love in the room first of all, like between Becky and Alex, and then between them and all of us, and just celebrating this new life beginning. And let me think. So what to say about that? I'm sure there's
so
things you
much.
want to say, Clay.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something about meeting someone in prison, and you have so much hope for them, and you know that they deserve is such a heavy word, but I will say it because I believe it in this case. They deserve a chance to be out here in the wild with the rest of us. I don't think that he belonged in prison anymore. I think that he was no longer being served by the justice system. In that ridiculous phrase, I'll say it because that's what they say. And in that case, I think that he belongs out here. This is where he needs to be. And I'm so happy that he was found suitable and was released. And I think it's an opportunity for so many things. It's an opportunity for him. It's an opportunity for us. You know, it's just opportunities in every direction. And it's just very exciting. I love seeing someone in street clothes after I've seen him in blues I've known him for a year and a half or so. And I've been in to that prison a lot. And he was gone for a long time, by the way. And I'll stay vague with all that. But basically, he went to parole and he made it on his first try. And when you're gone as long as he was, that don't happen. Like they just don't. They don't usually say yes on the first try. And I remember very clearly thinking, I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm already sad because clearly they're going to say no. And so that they said yes means that is just meant to be. And whatever that means to you, it's just meant to be. And he's out here. And we sat at this table and ate Chipotle. And that is what life should be like. And I think that I will never forget crimes that were committed. I will not justify crimes that, victims. I won't say that the victims didn't matter. I will never, ever, ever say or even hint any of that. What I will say is, I think that is a man who needs to be free instead of incarcerated, and to be a part, my little tiny, sliver of, part of that process, is so enjoyable. And to just sit here and look and see, like, dude wearing street clothes, trying Chipotle for the first time, making jokes, I had a little miniature can of Coke and they've shrunk since you got, locked up. Ha ha ha. This is how small they are here in the future, whatever. Like that is what life should be like. And I want to see what he can offer to the world. I'll say it this way. He has a lot more to give to the world out here than he did inside prison. And I think it was right to let him go. And it's on him to prove that was a good idea. And I think that is just beautiful. And I will stand by anyone, regardless of their past, if they can show that the future is where that this is what we deserve them, they deserve this too. It's just pure joy to think about. I love it. I'm pissed it took me 2 weeks to get out here and hug his neck. Got here as fast as I could.
That's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope.
What was your experience? That was Friday night here at the house, the Airbnb, whatever you call it. How did you experience that?
You know how it feels when you're around someone that you see doing something so big and so difficult and so brave. And it's like, it's hard to know what to feel. Definitely hope, inspiration, respect. Maybe even a little insecurity gets in there. Maybe wow, what have I ever done that's hard? Seeing someone step into a new world and a new life and have to just sort it out. Yeah, just inspiring, I think.
before we had dinner that night, we did something that I first experienced at the Olesic dinner table. They sit around and before all the food's on the table, they hold hands. Everybody says something that they're grateful for. They squeeze the hand next to them. You go around the whole table. Everybody says something that they're grateful for. And that was one of the highlights of my year. Being able to sit at the table Friday with all the names that you gave earlier and just say a quick word about what we're grateful for. And it's just cool. That's cool as shit. I love that. I want to have that experience with so many people that I think just belong out here. I hope I'm around for a lot more of those. That was cool. Also, something that you said, it reminded me that this is probably worth mentioning, that when folks get out, it actually is overwhelming. So how's it going? How you doing? What this and that and the other? All the small talk things that are no big deal for most people. They're the equivalent of how's the weather kind of stuff. It is overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming to answer that question over and over and over, but to also know that people are wondering it all the time. And it's a reminder for me to be a little bit more, don't ask so many damn questions. People who just got out, I have a couple other questions that aren't related to that. I'll save them for a little bit till we're done. Anything else on your mind that you'd like to talk about or that we haven't covered?
Yes. Well, just a couple things that I thought of that I should have added earlier. So when I was talking about the ghosts that I projected all over on, and I mentioned that I thought they were a sociopath, I just wanted to clarify that had nothing to do with EPP or anyone involved in jail or prison, just a regular person in a self-help group.
Fun.
Yeah.
I didn't think EPP. We're all perfect in EPP. What do you mean? What?
I would hate for anyone to hear the term sociopath and be like, oh, you have guides falling in love with people that are in prison, or I don't know, whatever.
Well, it's going to be misunderstood a million different ways. So
yeah.
I do appreciate the clarity. It's always nice to, just for the sake of clarity.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We're
not limited on time, by the way. We can go for, as I usually point out, we have 32 hours worth of space. Okay. So we are not limited.
We could do a few more of those hours. I'm fine with that.
Cool.
I want to re-record the intro because I don't know why I said that.
Just do it now.
Oh, okay. I'll try another one.
This can be the start of the episode. That was just a 90-minute warm-up.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yeah, you can do it here and I can add it there, or they can just hear it here as it naturally falls or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm Jan Shegda. I'm a guide with EPP.
Cool.
I could cover it.
And by the magic of editing, I'll probably still leave it here in the middle of the episode or end or whatever that ends up being, and I'll just put it at the front as well.
Okay.
That's fun. Yeah. And again, you'll hear it before anybody else does, and you can say thumbs up or delete.
I could also say, I'm Jan Shegda. I love Christmas. I decorate early. I like having my nails done. I like baby animals on Instagram.
That is definitely going to be in the description, because every episode is in this, so-and-so is a so-and-so for EPP. In this episode, EPP Ambassador Clay Tumey talks with so-and-so about this, and that. So it's always three things. So it could be, the first one would be, it's like one word and a phrase. So it could be baby animals, Myers-Briggs, and what's the other one?
Trauma and emotional abuse.
Why not? And then below that will be all the stuff to sleeping at last. And I am going to put that in the links, but
yeah, that's good.
I'll edit that however it sounds good. And maybe we'll leave this, maybe we won't. That will definitely go at the beginning. But then I think all this is fun. I think people would just enjoy, especially with the long form podcast. It's just fun to listen to. It's just fun to, some people listen to it over several days, like they drive to work, listen to 20, 30 minutes on the way home or on the way to work and a little bit more on the way home, or while they, go on their morning run. Laura might be walking her dog right now. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
If that's what you're doing.
Hi, Trax.
I really actually hope I'm not going to say anything about that until this comes out. And I'm curious to hear when she hears that.
Yeah. Laura, you have to tell us exactly what you were doing when you heard that sentence.
Yeah. Or text us right now. That's the thing. Send us a screenshot of your podcast app right now. Okay. We got that out of the way. I think that was actually silly, but that's going to stay. That's fun. We do have fun here in Southern California.
You look very serious and convinced of that.
It's true. And I am. Why would we not? Sometimes we don't, but so what else? What else is on the where else should we go from there?
Well, what do you know about your podcast listeners and what they want to hear about?
Good question. I think so in the first year or so of the podcast, I really did it with the new Enneagrammer in mind. So someone who may have just found the Enneagram, or maybe just recently learned their type, or maybe their loved one recently went through the program or something like that. And oftentimes it was easier for me to imagine that person if I just pictured my mom, because not all of those, but most of those fit her. She was new. Actually, the podcast is what got her into the Enneagram, because she could listen in the privacy of her own home or rewind as she wanted to and all this stuff. And so I really kind of geared towards the new, the Enneagram newbie, however you want to say that. And I've pretty much kept that, focus all along, with some exceptions here and there. Like when we talk about guide training, I think about talking to the new guides or the prospective guides or whatever, whoever might be listening from that. But I think generally speaking, the audience, as a whole it might be fun to hear about, earlier you were mentioning the different centers and heart types and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people know the basics of the Enneagram and the centers and the words. We know 8, 9, 1 are belly types, 2, 3, 4 are heart types, 5, 6, 7 are head types. And we don't always know, A, what exactly does that mean? And B, how do they work together? So with you being a heart type and me being a head type, what does that mean as far as how we interact with each other? Clearly you're very educated, informed, a lot of knowledge. And it's easy for me to connect with that from the head center. But what if you weren't like that? And by the way, why are you like that? If you're a heart type, why are we not just fully emotionally involved this whole time? Why are we able to talk? Why did you say the thing? I'm glad you brought in physics or whatever. That's it's a head type nerdy thing to do or whatever. But clearly not, because you as a heart type said it. So you see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying.
There's a lot to talk about, I think, with the belly types, the heart types, the head types, how they interact. What does that even mean in the first place? And I think that would be a fun conversation to have with the audience in mind, being a group who knows enough to learn a little more.
Yeah. Well, I can just say how it seems to me. I haven't thought about this before, but I would say what I would expect is that as a head type, you would be interacting with me looking for more knowledge, looking for conversations about how to deepen your understanding of the world and have stimulating dialogue. And also to, I think this is more of a 5 thing maybe than head type, but I think all head types also are kind of interested in the absurdities of life, which of course as a 4 is yes, please, all the absurdities, especially if it's something that's a double entendre or a something that can be thought of two ways, or something that's just. It reminds me of I've heard several Enneagram teachers say that some of the best comedians are type 6s who are a head type because they're able to see both sides of an issue and point out how both are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what I would expect the head type would be coming to a conversation looking for. And as a heart type, it's a little harder to talk about because it's me, and I'm not sure if this is me or heart type, but I'll do my best. Heart type would be coming to the conversation looking for connection, looking to, specifically as a 4, I want to be seen as unique. And if I know the thing that you value most as a head type or as a 5 is braininess or competence or absurdity, then those might be the parts that I would choose to show. Because what I'm looking for is mirroring of how unique I am.
Is this a good time to say that we've never played a song before? We've never done this before. We've never done a...
Oh, that would be a great time.
Okay.
Did you get the hint from me pointing at you directly to give me some positive feedback?
I almost saw a handheld sign with the directions on it. I'm not saying you held that up. I'm just saying I almost saw that.
It's a real thing, though. And I mean, sometimes I'm aware of it, sometimes I'm not. But in every interaction, I'm looking for, how do you see me? More detail, please. So
I actually have a question about that, because I have seen a type say that this is a thing that I need, and it's the thing that I need to not get, because it feeds. There's a balance where you're feeding to a certain degree. You're serving me by giving me what I need, but I'm going to ask for more, and the more is what's a problem. Is that? Do you experience a similar version of that with what you've explained with your own type? Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I definitely don't want what I'm after all the time, which is a lot of just positive mirroring, or I would maybe even use the word worship. I mean, that's what I think in my mind that I want, but as soon as I get that, I'm like, ugh, gross. And it's because it's not authentic and it's not real connection. And really what I want is to be connected with me, and that's an inside job. But I think of it the same way as like a head type, head type wanting more dialogue about cognitive subjects and more deep exploration mentally. And I don't experience that head types that get that really get what they're after either. What do you think about that part of it? I think that so the dialogue or the conversation itself, I enjoy infinitely or indefinitely. I'm no word scientist. I love talking to people. I love hearing people talk. That part's fun. I think what my version of that is, I want to be acknowledged for my ideas, and I want my value to be in my thoughts, or some kind of mental thing that I can bring to the table and be praised for. And there's a point where it's like, this feels good. Thank you for noticing. Yes, I'm a genius. I'm aware, all that stuff. Like, I feel that way. I never actually say that anything other than, I wish I could capture the face that you just made so people would at least be able to agree with you that it was ridiculous what I said. But the reason I'm saying that is there's a point where I have a mild and healthy amount of that. Like I love if I say, hey, what if we just do this? And people go, great. Yeah, of course. Hell yeah. Great idea. That feels good. And there comes a point to where it can be too much. And I start to doubt if it's A, is it genuine? Or B, are they, I question their intellect. Like, why are you praising me this much? Because I think there's nobody who I respect that would like all of my ideas. There's a joke in there. What's his name? Woody Allen? No, not Woody Allen. Who said the thing about I wouldn't be a part of any club that would have me? Oh, I don't remember. So it's a version of that. It's a big, but with brain stuff. And so it's actually a little different for me. And there's a balance of everything probably, but I don't know. I wonder, when I asked the question to you, my thinking was, is there a way that I can optimize being a friend? And can I feed into it just the right amount, this thing that you need, and tell me where the line is that I don't cross it, so I can be the most efficient, optimized friend possible. And then I want to do that with every type on the Enneagram and find out what is their version of that. And I actually don't know if that's a thing for every type, but what I'm hearing is it probably is.
I love this question. I want to hear it for you also. What's coming to mind right now is I want to know, let me get it out first and see if it's always healthy, but I think it pretty much is. I want to know how you're impacted by me, because then I'm learning about you and we're connecting, and I'm also learning about myself, but it's not about praise. It's not about mirroring. It's not about, polishing the sheen on who I am or something. It's a weird phrase. I'm not sure where that came from. I was thinking of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and like polishing the apple, the witch. I don't know what's happening. anyway. Yeah, I think the right amount would be, both in positive and negative ways. Fours, we can be a lot in good ways and in negative ways. And if I don't get clear feedback about that in either direction, I will fill it in myself with a variety of true or untrue assumptions.
Will you do that out loud to where the person can confirm or deny any of it, or will it all be internal and we'll all just be screwed in the end?
Depends on the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. And depends on the health of the four, I would say. And for me, it's still something I'm working on, saying it faster, what I'm actually thinking. But I mean, I don't want to say it, and I believe that no one wants to hear it.
Yeah.
So it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary maintenance.
I feel like I suffer from the opposite, where I do want to say it. How did you say it just now? I don't want to say it and no one wants to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do want to say it and they still don't want to hear it. I think I say too much often.
About what?
Well, in that case, the thing, so if I'm not encouraged or supported or whatever, if the line isn't even approached, like if there's still a lot left that I haven't heard yet, I will say, and I do actually genuinely joke about a lot, like just a minute ago, the genius thing. Like I say stuff like that frequently, and to some extent because I think it's absurd and maybe funny or whatever. But that does show up in like my real life, where people, if I should have heard thank you 5 times and I only heard it once, I'll say it 4 times, and I'll say it for you. And just so you know that you were supposed to say it. Not always, especially considering the private conversation we had earlier before we hit record. But that's how I show up in the world, where I think I'm missing this much, so I'll just do it for myself, and then hold it against them for having not said it, I suppose. Does that make sense?
And that protects you from having to be vulnerable and trust enough to tell the person, it really bothered me that you didn't say thank you 5 times.
I think it just gives me it's a fabricated way of meeting my own needs, and it's false. So it doesn't actually work, but it's an attempt, the simple example of needing to hear something 5 times and I only heard it once. So I say it 4 times. It's an attempt at getting something that I'm not getting. And because it's, what do they call that in the nutrition world? It's like fake calories or something like that. There's a word for it, where it's basically like not actually there's no nutrients there. It's just empty. And I wish I knew more about food, nutrition, or whatever to be smart there, but I don't. But I don't even know enough to be smart. I don't even know enough to make an example about being smart. So I'm way behind right now.
Screwed.
Yeah. It's, but yeah. So all that to say that I think I just try to substitute the things that I'm missing, and it's fake. So it doesn't actually work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just air.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, with the other example, it was a 3 who wanted to be told they were great, but only so much. Like, tone it down. At this point, this is where I don't need to hear it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So acknowledge that I'm great, but not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very generalized, borderline, maybe not even accurate paraphrase, but it's pretty close. And then for me, that's what that is. So there's a certain point where it's good, and then like chill out.
Okay. So if you were to say how did you say it before? Like what you need from people?
For me, like the way I look at it, going outward towards other people, the way I think of it is like the question I'm wondering is, how do I be the ideal friend to them? Or I think what I said was optimized or efficient, but I'm really thinking like how to be the best, not best by comparison, but just how can I be the ideal, whatever, friend, partner, parent, all of it. Mm-hmm. So that's the question that I'm trying to answer for other people.
And what about for you? What's the ideal friend to you?
I think, so some level of, I need friction, first of all, like pushback. I don't need to always be amazing. So I really don't trust people who think that. And, I don't trust their being genuine. If I'm always great, then either they don't know me or they're full of shit, because it's just not true. So I also don't want to always be a dumbass or always be, loud or always be, I don't want to always be anything. I need like the right balance of you're cool and hey, tone it down. And, I think that feels pretty safe. That's a weird word. I don't know why I said safe. It feels, it's actually it does make sense. It feels, I can spend less energy wondering if we're truly close, or if we're truly friends, or if the person really loves me. If I don't have to think and figure that out, that's great. I have more energy to think about other things. I don't want to think about who is real and who's not, or who I can trust and who I can't. I don't want to think about that. I just want to know it. So if there's not an appropriate balance between you're awesome and you suck, it's a problem.
So someone's a real friend to you when they give you healthy feedback of all kinds.
Yeah. I can actually tell you, I can give you an example. Dana Vitarello, who's been on the podcast before. Many people know who that is. She is someone who I really lean on if I have. So I had a experience recently, and just a personal life experience where I really needed someone who I trusted for their intellectual prowess. Like, she's brilliant, I think. She's very smart. So I needed someone who I trusted how smart they are, and how much they cared about me, and how much they, how likely they were to tell me, you're full of shit, this is stupid, or this is great. Like, I needed somebody who was smart, trustworthy, and loved me. And it needed to be 100% on all three of those. This was just a big moment in life for me, big day. And so at the moment I realized I needed to talk to someone who filled all three of those, I texted her and said, hey, do you have an hour today? And she said yes, and we talked. And the reason that is, it's the reason it's so good to have someone like that for me is that I spend zero energy wondering, can I trust what she's saying? Is it reliable information? Is she just trying to whatever? Like I don't spend literally zero energy. Like I can just fully accept whatever she says with no filter or processing of my own. And in that moment, that's what I needed. And to me, that is the ideal friend, where I can, out of nowhere, and I didn't check to see if she's having a good day, or are you on vacation, or are you well today? Are you sick? Do you feel okay? Are you traveling? I didn't ask any of that. All I said was, do you have an hour today? I need to talk. And the answer was yes. And I can fully unload all the information that I have and trust her processing and advice after that. And to me, that's the ideal friend. And it's nice to have. I don't think I find that very often. I don't know that I find that with her always. It's just in the moment that existed. So it was quite good.
Sounds like trust.
Yeah, it's a big yeah. Shocker, us in the old head type world. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that has to be a thing for every type. There's some version of that for every type if you go around the Enneagram.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on Dana's part too, guessing, but I would imagine that she would also have to trust, okay, I'm just going to go with whatever Clay wants to talk about today. I'm going to trust that in the future, if I need a more reciprocal conversation, that can happen, but it's not today, because I mean, that's something to need trust in as well.
Yep. And in the moment, I'm just wondering like how that even lands to the listener who might not have someone like that. What do you do if you don't have that? I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what I would do. And I feel like it's worth trying to find an answer, because that's got to be a bummer to hear all that. And I feel good sharing that. I imagine it feels neat, like the idea of hearing that, but also to the person who might not have that. What the hell? What do you do then? If you have that moment and you don't have a Dana, then what do you do?
Have you ever had a time in your life when you didn't have that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I went to prison for that. I mean, for me, it was, yeah, there was a lot of that. That was most of my childhood, actually. I think I do know that people loved me. I do know that I was loved. There's no doubt about that. As a child, I was loved. And there's no doubt as a child that I had access to really smart people. And I was, at least at a minimum, I had some teachers who were people in my church or my family or my parent. There was somebody who was reliable and I could trust what they said. And I don't think I had anybody that fit all three. I don't think I had anybody that fit two, actually. And I think that was a lot of where my problems came from, was that I knew, yeah. I'm centering myself because I know my mom listens, but I'll just trust that it's okay to say, and Mom, pause it if you need to wait a little while. But I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, my mom loved me to pieces. Like there's no doubt. I have no questions about how much my mom loved me as a child. I do think that she didn't have all the tools that she needed. And I think that I was really tricky as a kid. And I think that she didn't have the answers. If she did, I would have probably trusted those answers. And I think she just didn't. So the doubt there was not in the love. It was doubting the ability, I think. And there were people in my life who I thought were brilliant and probably had all the answers, but I don't think they loved me enough they weren't approachable for me, or maybe I just missed it somehow. So and all through childhood and early adult life, and I never had, the proverbial Dana, to just call up and say, hey, I need to talk. And in their defense, all those people that were in my life, I don't know that I was even capable of hearing, or I wasn't receptive. I wasn't sending out any calls to say, hey, can we talk? And going to prison set a lot of things in motion to where I could develop that skill, develop the relationships too. But then eventually, I think the first time I ever actually did that was 3 or 4 years out of prison. And I had a moment, in my personal life where I hit the panic button. And for me, that was calling Susan and saying, hey, I'm at a point where I don't know what my options are, what my choices should be. I just know that I am incapable of making any reasonable choice right now. And I feel like this is the point where I usually destroy the world around me. I don't want to do that. And please help. And so, and that was a big deal for me. It was a big day, big moment, because I did the healthy thing that was good for not just me, but everybody in my life probably. And thankfully, Susan was there for that. And there's probably been a couple of those over the years. Dana was the most recent. I'm sure there'll be more. I don't expect to have it easy going from here on out. But I know what happened in the absence of that in my own life. And I don't know still. I don't know what to tell people to do. I don't know what advice to give to people who don't have that. It feels pretty helpless.
How is it for you to share all that?
It feels kind of icky, actually. It feels like thinking you're in a house that's empty. So you just walk out of the shower without a towel and no clothes on, and then you walk into a room of people, and you're just like you're just exposed to everybody unintentionally. I don't like that.
No, I don't like it either. I don't like being on a podcast and all of a sudden I'm talking about my own trauma and ugh. Yeah.
So why do we do it? What is the point?
I think the point is no one really wants to sit down. At least I don't. Let's just say I don't want to sit down and listen to someone tell me everything they've learned and how shiny their life is and how everything's easy and beautiful. I mean, I'd love to believe that, but I want someone I can relate to, that, the dark moments, the things that have been really confusing and maybe I don't even have answers for yet. And I want to be able to feel more human because I'm listening to them and feel connected because I'm not alone. And I think that's what you did. And me too.
And you too. I agree. I have this urge. I really want to answer this question because
you want me to ask it to you?
We can answer it. No, I have the question. I just don't know that you can answer it or we can answer it or whatever. But I just feel like it's worth asking is to the person, like, what is the first step to the person who doesn't, to the person who is as early as they can be in their journey, who is on their own at this point still. How do they work towards having, what's the next step? And there's so many possibilities and it's a really big question and I get that. And so whatever hits you is kind of what I want to hear. What is the first step for that person who, I mean, they're eager, they're looking, but they don't even know what to look for. Whether it's a relationship or who to ask for help or what to do.
I think the first step might sound a little weird, but the first step is begging. And if you're a praying person, that's a prayer. If you're not, it's still begging. It's still, it reminds me of the poem that we use in custody by Uriah Mountain Dreamer House, The Invitation. It's like, what's it called? Yeah, The Invitation. And there's a part in there where it talks about screaming yes to, oh, I'm going to misquote it. I'm glad you're pulling it up right now. But when you come to the end of yourself like that and you realize you need something that's just not available, I don't think there's anything you can do other than just like scream and wail about that. And if you have a relationship with God or some kind of higher power that you feel can receive that, I think that's a place to do that. And even if you don't, or if you don't believe in that, just the act of vulnerability of being exactly where you are, who you are, and letting that just erupt from you. I can't think of a better place to start, but it's the thing that we would all avoid most. Okay, the thing that I would least want to do.
You're doing a thing there. You're catching yourself. And this has happened on the podcast before, but I'll just ask you to explain it quickly. What are you doing right there? What is that thing where you're changing it from the general you or we or whatever and putting it back on yourself?
Yeah, what I'm doing there is removing the vibe of like steepling my fingers and, oh yes, well, when we tend to, and waxing eloquent about something and actually talking about something that's true for me.
Thank you. I love that. This is I don't remember what line it is. Do you want to look at it and see? It's fun watching you navigate the touchscreen phone with the nails that you made.
This helps me.
I won't describe that. I hope that's the whole thing. I pressed the first thing I found.
I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes.
That's good. I enjoyed this. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect to get 2 hours out of you. It might cut down to like an hour and 55 minutes.
Oh, we're going to cut 4 whole minutes out, are we?
Actually, I think we actually started around the 10-minute mark and we're a little over 2 hours in. So maybe like an hour and 50 minutes or 45 or something like that.
It would really be okay with me if it was. I mean, it can be smaller. It's okay.
It won't be too much smaller. There's a lot of good stuff here, and I hope you agree when you hear it in a week or so when it's cut down to its final edit. You give it the green light, and I'll ship it off to Robin to prettify it. All that good stuff. Anything else? Anything lingering that didn't get said earlier?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
I want to know why you do this. Because I know like why you started doing the podcast, but that's like why we start doing a thing is different why we keep doing a thing. And so like I'm curious, like what's actually in it for you now doing this?
I do it for the millions of dollars in ad revenue. Of course I start there. I think so. I guess as a brief recap, the reason I started was we were in the 10th year, the 9th year leading up to the 10th anniversary of EPP, and was just asked to do as a year in celebration as we moved to the 10th anniversary. That's why I started. Actually gave it a try several years before that, and it didn't last. And thanks to how awesome Robin Grant is to work with, I felt it was doable this time again. So I was down to try. And I've loved quite severely. I've loved dealing with Robin every step of the way as the episodes kind of come together and new ideas kind of come about. I think so much more highly than I ever actually articulate with regard to Robin. I really, really, really think highly of him. There are other people in the process that make it possible. I just felt like bragging on him for a moment. So that was the first season was because of that. And then the 10th anniversary of EPP, that episode. And then we continued to do it in the second season. By that point, my mom had taken interest, and it was a way to just keep in mind the new folks that come along and how important I think this is to have something there that's freely accessible to anyone with a podcast app who can open it and listen. They can have a few laughs. I'm very comfortable being silly, goofing around, and only having fun. I'm also fine going as deep as the guest is willing to go. I love talking the Enneagram, obviously, talking about prison. So I'm saying all that to say that the meaning, the purpose has kind of just gone its own path along the way. So that, I think where I'm at now, the reason I do it is, well, all those reasons are still true. I still do. I love dealing with the podcast circle and the external communication circle that kind of falls under that too. I love the people that are involved, and it's fun. I also do still think of the new folks that come along. And I think more recently, I just really love hearing the thoughts and the experiences of other people that are in the project. I think I feel, it's not stingy. I feel like I'm holding it to myself, the friendships that I have, and you know, like you and I have talked a lot about a lot of things, and some of them have been very general topics, and even though they're very long, they're also very like just normal things to talk about. And then there's also been some very personal conversations, and I've shared with you, you know, very personal moments or things that have happened in my life. And I have a lot of, I've built relationships that are quite significant, I think, over the years, with EPP, and I want people to get to meet y'all. I think it's, I mean, a lot of people know who you are. Like, it's not like you're just my friend and, you know, few people know you. Like, a lot of people already know who you are. And I just want more people to know you. And I wanted, you know, last episode, I wanted people to hear Becky's story and what it's like to be the wife of someone who is incarcerated and who's about to get out, and all of the joy and terror that exists within that, and all the obstacles and all the celebration. I want people to hear that story. And I want people to meet Cynthia and hear her version of what it's like to be a guide going into prison and teaching, and what it's like to teach here in this prison versus there in that prison. And I want people to hear Troy's story of, you know, going back into prison for the first time and what that was like. And that was a before and after. We talked before we went into prison, and we talked the night after we got out of prison. And this is episode 34. I can tell you in order all 33 episodes before it, and they mean the world to me. And I just think that it's worth sharing all the people that I get to experience in EPP specifically, but also just in life in general. And I think this is not a permanent, like, lifetime commitment for me. I'm not doing this forever. And I really hope that another ambassador, hopefully, or maybe someone else within the project, comes along and takes over, you know, somewhere in the future. I don't know, like, how far into the future. I just think it's worth sharing. My life is pretty neat sometimes, and it's hard and painful and miserable a lot. But also there are these spikes of joy, and like, how fucking cool. Like like, how cool is it that I get to know people that are just amazing, and who I can ask a question to, and they can just speak words that I can't and that nobody else has. And I think that's cool. And so my reason for doing the podcast is to just share the things that give me a little slice of happiness. And I don't particularly care how many people download it. I'm not really geared towards trying to grow. Like if it's thousands, I want tens of thousands. If it's hundreds of thousands, I want millions. That ain't me. Like if 3 people download it, I just want those 3 people to have their life improved a little bit that day. And I think so far that's happening. So I believe in it. I find that it's good and worth it. And I have the time and energy to do it. And those are true today. They'll be true next month. They'll be true for a while. But at some point they won't be. And I won't have an answer for that. Maybe the next person can answer that question for you. But that's the answer for me for now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I just have one last question, and that is, I want you to ask me a question, most absurd one you can think of.
Oh, that's dangerous. Well, let's see. The most absurd question I can think.
Or just whatever comes to mind. It's also fine.
Yeah, no, I'm reaching. I'm digging. I got like 3 or 4 already, and I'm seeing if anything else. The most absurd question I can ask you. I really feel there's a lot of pressure on me right now.
Good thing you can edit it all out.
It's probably this is the bummer. Like I probably would, but then that was kind of funny. And I want people to hear that because in my opinion, that's part of like, I want people to feel like they're sitting at the table.
Gestures right now.
I know. This is when you know I give a shit. Like that's where it turns into something. Yeah. Does it have to be a question I've never asked anyone? And
yes, because of the way that you said that question.
Okay. Well, I have a question that I often ask that's very absurd.
Well, then you can ask 2.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask that one first.
Okay.
It's not funny absurd. It's just absurd.
That counts.
And so the idea of taking the Enneagram inside and working with folks who are incarcerated, and, it's really easy for a lot of people to connect the dots on why we do that. Because when they come out, like Suzanne said on episode 7, the second half, I might have fucked that up. The first half is on episode. I know I do the hand signals thing. It's, I don't know why I do that, but I do it. But as she said, like those people, that's going to be my neighbor one day. And I want my neighbors to be ready and prepared and worth it and all that stuff. Those are all my words, by the way. I'm paraphrasing what she said much better in episode 7. So, but the absurd question is, now I'm self-conscious. I'm thinking Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell. I don't know what to do with my hands. For people who don't get out, like there are people who are lifers. In California, they call them LWAP, life without parole. They're never getting out. There's no parole date. There's no parole hearing. And I do believe that there are people who wonder, what are you doing? Why do you care? Why wait? And the question probably is something along the lines of, why waste your time? They're never getting out. Why would you waste your time going in to speak with people who are going to be locked up for the rest of their lives?
To me, it's such a ludicrous question. Like, does your life not count if it's in a particular location? I mean, the work that we do is about, and to me, modeling and guiding people into how to actually love yourself and have a relationship with yourself that's positive, that isn't you beating yourself down or self-destructing in any number of inner or outer ways. So how is that dependent on where a person is? I think that's as important for me as it would be for someone on the inside to learn those skills. And every life matters. I mean, I don't know. I could go on. I think people that ask that question or maybe think that way, it's because you need to be like a contribution to society or something like that.
The phrase is productive member. A lot of times they say that.
Okay.
Productive member of society.
Productive member of society. I mean, I know a lot of people that would probably technically fit in that description who are not productive members of society whatsoever. You know, they're consumers and are a net negative on the whole fabric of community. Community starts with one, like your community with yourself. So I think, you know, society could be understood as one person at a time.
I guess that checks the box of absurd, since you started with, to me, it's just such a ludicrous question.
Okay, I can go with that.
And the visible dismissing of it being a legit question. Okay, so the most absurd question that I can think of is, you've stumped me, actually. And I'm going to stay with it, and there will be something. But as someone who prides myself on not asking stupid questions. In fact, another podcast that I do, it's not EPP related, I openly mock people who ask silly questions. And I think it's a great weakness to do the, how's the weather? You know, this, that, and that. Like those kinds of, how's it going?
Stalling.
No, I'm still thinking. No, I'm definitely thinking. I'm not stalling. I just don't have anything yet. There's something there with the Enneagram. I'm trying to think of something that hasn't been asked before. And I know that, like, if there was a 10th, you know, what would it be? Like, that's an absurd question. But you've probably answered that before too, right?
I've never heard that one before.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Well, then we'll go with that. If there was a, currently there are 9, and there always has been. There, as far as the Enneagram goes, that's what Ennea means, 9. There's 9 types. But if there was more than 9 types, what would it or what would they be? I'm asking you to completely fabricate a new type on the Enneagram. Oh, I won't say what that was. You can if you want. We'll lose our sponsors, damn it.
A 10th Enneagram type.
Yeah. What's the type that nobody knows about? I'm just glad that the answer is going to be as tough as coming up with the question.
What would a 10th Enneagram type be? Like, I can't think of anything funny or actually thought-provoking. Neither one. Nothing.
Well, Myers-Briggs has 16, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess it would be, what would that make it? The decatype? The 10th type?
Yeah, the decagram.
The decagram?
Yeah, type 10. Wait, is it Deca? Does it go from Ennea to Deca?
I'm only saying that because of decathlon is what came to mind. I mean, I know that means 10, but I don't know if that's the way you would say it. 10-sided figure. And what center of intelligence would the 10th type be? And that's what I'm really wanting to know.
That's a fun one. No, decagram is 10 grams. I feel like
instead of like kilogram.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like all the centers are full. You know what? No, I don't need to do that. I was going to look at the Kabbalah because...
Oh, they do isn't there a 10th?
I should remember, but I don't. I guess the 10th type would be the culmination of all the types. And it would be its own center of intelligence, which is like the center of the Enneagram. So it would be like a dot in the middle of the figure. And Enneagram type 10.
Be called the dot.
The dominator. I don't know.
It is decagram, by the way.
Is
It's
it?
with a
Okay.
K.
Okay, so I think it would be Enneagram type 10. I think it would have its own center of intelligence, which would be separate from all the others, like one center to rule them all. I don't know. And it would be a culmination of all the types. And it's the type that is like the know-it-all type that understands the meaning behind each of them. And so its essential qualities would be,
I thought 5 was the know-it-all type.
well, kind of, this is a different way. This is like
They actually know it all instead of just
the
thinking
one
they
that's
know it
not
all.
a poser. No, I'm just kidding. The essential qualities would be, let's see, intuition and what's that word for when you can see behind everything?
Well, I'm simple, so I think X-ray vision.
Okay. Essential quality number 2 is X-ray vision. And I'm losing another word. The one where you can like coalesce everything together,
Oh, gosh.
combine, alchemy, kind
Yeah.
of.
Coalesce. I don't know.
Alchemy.
Yeah.
And we can call type 10 the magician. I don't know.
The magician actually sounds kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. We can cut that whole part out.
The torture that I went through and thinking of a question that is absurd.
The torture your listeners will go through, either listening to your process or my process answering the question. Might be interesting to 3 of them. I don't know.
Every podcast app in existence has a skip 15 seconds forward, 15 seconds back, or 30 or 10, or some variation of that. So maybe they just skipped all that. Maybe they stopped listening 30 minutes ago, and here you are at the end of the episode. Or maybe not. Maybe they rewinded it, listened to it a bazillion times. That's not a metric that I have. I can see who downloads and not who. I can see how many, like the number. I can see like the different countries that are represented. It's actually quite a lot. It's pretty neat. And anyways.
Tell us more about the metrics, Clay.
Those are all under lock and key. If I could say words, it would be funnier. The Illuminati has instructed me against
against sharing all the metrics.
Yeah, that's the 10th type, the magical Illuminati.
Magician Illuminati.
Okay. I feel good here. How about you?
Yeah. I'm sure we could talk about lots of other things, but there's already a lot of things, so we should just leave it.
Okay. So at the conclusion of each episode, same thing with every guest we have, which I know you'll be happy to hear as a type 4 that you're going to do the same thing that everybody else has done. I do like hand signals a lot. I don't know why. I only do that here. I do it. I don't know. Anyways, it's actually not a question. It's you have the final word, the final thought, the final whatever, and there's no time limit. So whatever's on your mind, you will have the last word. Before that, I would like to say thank you. I really felt, the reservations at the beginning, and we did this tonight instead of tomorrow because let's just do it. And it's always okay to say no, and you didn't, and I appreciate it. It's nice to just sit and chat. I really think that you have a lot to offer to folks, and I'm glad that you sat with me for a couple hours and shared yourself, and it means a lot to me. I suspect it will mean a lot to those who hear this. So thank you. And with that said, I have nothing else to ask or say, and I'll just turn it over to you for however long you feel like talking. What's on your mind? You have the final words.
I want to trust that the more I share about myself, who I really am, what's really going on with me, what I really think, feel, and sense, the better it is for me and everyone around me. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And I connected with myself doing this. And I'm just aware of how precious that is. And especially if it inspires anybody else to do the same. Actually, you know what? Fuck that. No, it's just for me. So thank you.
EPP is on a mission to understand why we do what we do, using the Enneagram to inspire transformation on both sides of the bars through self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-compassion. For more information about EPP, please visit EnneagramPrisonProject.org. We appreciate your time and attention today. Please stay tuned for future episodes of the podcast, which you can expect right here on the first Tuesday of every month as we continue to tell the story of the Enneagram Prison Project.